A closer look response. How do I respond to an article? Be clear about which of the three ways you are responding. You can agree, disagree, or both, a combination of the two. In my essay, I chose to disagree with the author. So the ways to respond are to disagree, which means to say so clearly by analyzing different points of the article, but also to make a new argument about why you disagree. And to agree, you say so, but you also say something new. You extend the argument. And to both agree and disagree, explain what you agree with, what points you agree with, but also what concerns you as well. Here is my response. The first writing strategy is to transition from the summary to the response. And how I did that was by stating my main point of contention with the article. The next writing strategy is to analyze the argument. My paragraph is a direct critique of Wilson's argument, attacking the assumptions she made by analyzing them further. This is a technique you can use, analyzing the support of an argument. Interact directly with the material using paraphrases and quotes and then comment on them. Another writing strategy is to connect the article to something personal. Now, what I did right here is connect it to lots of people's personal situations. You need a car, of course you have to get a loan. You need an education, of course you need to get a loan. I could have also made it even more personal by explaining how I struggled to pay back my student loans after graduating college because I chose a low-paying career that I loved over a high-paying career that could have helped me pay off my loans faster. That story would have been consistent with my disagreement of her main point. Another writing strategy is to just not respond by itself, but also to make your own argument with a topic sentence. Topic sentences usually go at the beginning, but I put mine a little later in the paragraph. Notice that I did, however, at the beginning of my response make it clear that I was disagreeing with Wilson. Even if you decide to put a topic sentence somewhere other than the first few lines, you should make it clear what your basic response will be. Disagree, agree, or both. And here is my topic sentence. Our problem is not that we are going into debt, but that we don't see that debt as a big deal. I'm directly responding to her argument and I'm creating my own. So if you were to agree with this essay, here's how you would go about doing it. I can't just say, oh, I agree with this and I agree with that and I agree with that. It has to be more than that. You have to bring something new. In order to make your own argument, you might need to extend it to a further place that the writer doesn't go. For example, had I agreed with Miss Wilson that the amount of student debt is perfectly fine, I would have made the argument or suggestion that the way to keep this debt reasonable is to provide financial counseling for all students. This way, the students will still be in debt, but they won't borrow more than they can afford, eliminating the claim that college is too costly. If I were to both agree and disagree, I might state that I think the current amount of debt students are taking on is adequate, but that I think the rising costs will soon put it out of reach and will make student debt a lifelong sentence. So just keep in mind that you do need to be clear about whether you are disagreeing, agreeing, or both. And you can, pretty much anybody can disagree or agree with or both with anything. And so be mindful of that you can do that with pretty much any article that you read. Good luck with your responses.